This is how you build wealth from nothing, from absolutely nothing. No inheritance, no connections, and no obvious advantages. You want to pay very rapt attention to every single second of this video because many young people have built wealth from absolutely nothing, following the principles I'm about to share in this video. Now, building wealth is a topic that I have taken time to personally research over the last decade. And throughout my career as an international management consultant, I've met very successful people who have built wealth out of nothing, and I have learned so much from them. And while you could be the next person to completely turn around your story, if you don't have accurate knowledge and brutally honest truths, you may continue to struggle financially for the rest of your life. So, how do you build wealth from nothing? What do financially successful young people know that you don't? Well, there are two profound ideas in this video that will change the way you see money forever. Building wealth follows a specific set of profound principles, and in this video, I'll be sharing them. I think it's important for me to clarify that when I talk about building wealth in this video, I'm not trying to glamorize materialism. Okay? Now, wealth is not an end, it is a means. It's a means to financial freedom. So when we talk about financial freedom, it's about getting to the point where you don't have to actively work for money. So your income, whether it's your savings, your investment, your passive income, is enough to guarantee that your living expenses are covered. So you work only because you want to, not because you have to or you need to. And this is very important. It's important because it gives you the ability to have your time to yourself. And your time is important because time is probably the most important and the most limited resource that we have. Okay, so there's so many things that we actually want to do. There are too many adults doing things that they don't really want to do. So many things we want to do. People want to write books, people want to learn new languages, or you want to travel, you want to go and see the world, you want to volunteer, or you have some humanitarian plans, you want to start an NGO. Now, all those things cannot happen if you do not have the choice. If you do not create a situation where you can choose to do those things and not worry about your expenses. All right. So financial freedom is not about, or is not just about having more. It's about being more. It's about being more present. Okay. So let me ask you a question at this time, and it's a question I'd really like you to think about. Now, what would you do? Okay. What career would you choose if you did not have to worry about money? If you were sorted for the rest of your life, you never have to worry about money again, what would you do? What career would you choose? Now, that is exactly what is important to you. So when we talk about financial freedom is putting ourselves in a position where we don't have to worry about money so that we can do the things that are most important to us. Okay, so there are a number of reasons why you want to take building wealth and becoming financially free seriously. So I think firstly, constantly living on the financial edge, living from paycheck to paycheck can take its toll on your mental health. So the need to constantly worry about paying bills can lead to a lot of things, including depression. All right, so that's number one. Now, number two is that you become vulnerable to life emergencies. A lot of people are just one job loss away from a total financial collapse. It can also lead to strained relationships. Arguments about money are one of the leading causes of divorce and, family conflicts and crisis. Let me say something else. As humans, we are creatures of habit, okay? When we make a consistent pattern of choices, those behavioral patterns over time are imprinted on our neural pathways. So we are creatures of habit. And survival can become a habit. See, when you're mentally preoccupied or you're constantly focused on meeting short-term needs, it becomes very difficult to think long-term. yes, it becomes very difficult to think long term. So the longer you're all about survival, the harder it becomes to break free from it. I'm sure by now you're asking, how do I create this wealth, Miles? How do I build this wealth you're talking about, okay? Now, so when it comes to building wealth, the two words that you should always remember, there is value and there is skill. There's value and there is skill. So I'm going to talk about them one before the other. So let's talk about value. What money essentially is a representation of value. Money is nothing but a representation of value. So it means that even when there was no money, if you went to the marketplace empty, you would come back empty. Why? Because you had nothing of value. So we're paid according to the market, society, the organization's perception of your value or the value that you bring. So I'm going to use some other examples here. On a flight, the pilot and the air hostess, okay, on a flight are exposed to the same risk, okay? Maybe the air hostess probably is exposed to more risk because the pilot is always strapped in. But there are times on a flight where the air hostess has to go around and try to make sure everyone is comfortable, everyone has eaten and stuff like that. So if anything goes wrong, the air hostess is probably at more risk than the pilot. However, they're not paid the same amount. Why are they not paid the same amount? Because the airline, okay, doesn't perceive their value as the same. So in other words here, it's harder to replace a pilot than to replace an air hostess, with all due respect to air hostesses. But that's the truth. The airline perceives the pilot as more valuable. So they're going to pay the pilot, I don't know how many times more than they're going to pay the air hostess. They're on the same flight, they're exposed to the same risk, but they do not solve the same problem. Okay, I have a cousin who is the head of a tech firm for West Africa, and he earns a lot of money. He earns a lot of money. I don't want to mention the amount, okay? He lives in sub-Saharan Africa. He earns in dollars. He earns in hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. One of the reasons he's able to earn that much is because the problem that he solves, okay, for that company, or the problems that he has the ability to solve, there are less than maybe 20 people on the entire continent that can solve that same problem. So scarcity is value. Scarcity is value. The more scarce your skill set is, the more valuable you are in the workplace, okay, or in the market or in the society. So it's all about value. So when you're able to hone yourself, you are able to develop a particular skill, you're able to hone your skills, and you're able to build expertise in a particular area, you become more valuable. You become more valuable. You're able to solve specific problems, and not just any problems, important problems. Not all problems are the same. Okay, so this is very important. So how do I move on from here? It means that primarily you need to know what your strengths are. You need to know the things that you can put in little effort and get exceptional results. And you need to hone those skills. You need to hone them to world-class standard. Excellence has to become a core value. It's not just about doing something, but you have to be able to do it very well. You have to be able to do it so well that wherever you go to, all right, people remember your name. So when we talk about building wealth, for instance, ultimately, I have to agree that the 9 to 5 is a very difficult place. Having a 9 to 5, having a regular job is a very difficult place to build exponential wealth. I totally agree, but I think it's an amazing start. Okay, the problem is not because you're in a 9 to 5, it's how the 9 to 5 world values you. So there are people that become so valuable in their organization or their industry that if they decided to leave an organization, the organization will have to renegotiate with them. Yes, the organization will have to, because they become very valuable. There are people like that, all over the world. So the problem primarily is not because you have a job. It's really because you may not be considered very valuable on that job. So the first thing is value. So it means that you either have to become a person of great value, or you have to create products or solve problems that people consider valuable. So the first equation to building wealth is value, is understanding the principle of value, okay? That wealth is a byproduct of value. People don't just pay for products and services, they pay for value. Organizations don't just pay for employees, they pay for value. So that's how the whole thing, the value thing works. Now let's talk about skill. Now, we have established that value is the foundation. You have to be a person of value, or you have to create products or services of value. Now, value sometimes can have limits. Let me give you an example. I have a friend who is a fantastic masseuse. So I remember she moved into my city many years ago, and I was the first client. She has the best hands in the world, when it comes to being a masseuse, all right? That's what I mean, when it comes to being a masseuse. So she's fantastic. However, there's a limit to how many people she can massage in a day. So as much as she creates value, there's still a limit on how much she can make. That's the first problem. Now, the second problem is that she's limited by the amount of time she can spend to work. So she can't work 24 hours, and she can't also be in two places at the same time. So there's a problem with that business model. So value is the foundation, but skill is the multiplier. Skill is about reaching more people. Skill is about generating more impact. It's about solving bigger problems. So if Jane is a doctor, and Jane's only stream of income is to, sit in the office and receive, patients from morning till evening. Maybe Jane works 9 to 6, or she works on night duty or something. There's a limit on how much she can earn. But if Jane partners with a tech company that builds her an app, and from that app she could talk to patients all over the world, there's no limit to how much Jane can earn. So now the thing about building wealth is that it's not just about creating value, it's about creating exponential value. It's about compound growth. When you talk about scale, you think of, Amazon, Temu, companies that have been able to sell to the rest of the world, sell to the entire world, okay? You think about a YouTuber, for instance, who makes a video that gets viewed by maybe millions of people around the world, and they don't need to, put in any additional effort. And that's the beautiful thing about skill, is that it separates us from two things: the involvement of our time and the involvement of any additional effort. So skill, okay, is the game changer. Value is the foundation. Skill multiplies that value. That's how you get wealth. So if there is a basic or fundamental equation for wealth, value times skill equals wealth. That's what it's going to be. It's value times skill. They go together. Now, value without skill will be limited. Skill without value is not going anywhere. But value combined with skill is the game changer. It will change your life. So two major things. First of all, go and create value. Go and become a person of value. How do I become a person of value? I have to hone my skills to world-class level. I have to be very good that people remember my name. I need to be so good that organizations want to poach me. I need to be so good that whatever business or service I'm doing, I'm in the top 1%. That is value. Now, skill is finding a way to multiply myself without using my time or adding any additional effort. That changes the game. That's how people build wealth. That is exponential value, and that is wealth. Now, living from paycheck to paycheck is a sign of one or two things. It's either you're not making enough money or you're spending too much. Now, frugality is a very important part of this journey, especially when you're starting. It's important to cut down on your expenses and be frugal. But the truth is that there's only so much you can cut down on. You can't starve yourself because you're trying to be frugal. You know, no matter how hard you try to be frugal, yeah, there are things you can't cut down. So there's a limit to how much you can cut down, but there is no limit to how much you can apply yourself to make. So as much as you want to be frugal, okay, and that's very good, especially when you're starting. However, you actually want to focus your energy more on trying to create more value and find a way to scale your value. That's what you want to do. In trying to scale, you can leverage technology. I think that's, one of the greatest things about technology in this generation is that it's almost impossible to scale without technology. So leverage technology, okay? Think global. Use scalable business models. Not every business model is scalable. Find scalable business models, okay? Build systems and processes. All those things will help you scale. So think scale, think global. So we've come to the end of this video, and if you found value in this video, please subscribe, please like, please leave a comment. In the comment section, I would like to know some things you would like me to talk about, some things you want to know more about. I look forward to engaging with you in the comment section. Tell more people about this video, share this video, and yeah, till we meet again next time. Take care. Bye.